The darkness between stars had always been quiet, peaceful even, as if space itself was sleeping. But that silence was shattered when Earth's deep space scanners picked up the final transmission from Colony Arc 7, and in the middle of garbled static and a broken voice, a single message slipped through that changed everything. They found us. They're not just killing. They're taking everything. At first, many believed it was just a malfunction, a simple glitch in a faraway communication system, the kind that often happened with outposts that were thousands of light years away. But when 2 more colonies went completely dark without a single warning, the leaders of Earth realized that something was happening, something they didn't understand, and something they weren't ready for. Commander Elias Grant, once a decorated war hero who had disappeared from public life after the last interstellar conflict, was pulled out of retirement and flown under high security to an underground base hidden beneath the icy lands of Siberia, where only a select few knew the real purpose of the facility, and even fewer had ever walked its deeper halls. There, beneath layers of rock and steel, scientists stood silently before a strange machine that hadn't moved in over 100 years, a massive black sphere floating in magnetic suspension, humming so softly that it felt more like a whisper inside the mind than a sound in the ears. And now, for the first time in a century, the sphere was glowing with dim red pulses, like the slow heartbeat of something ancient and angry waking up from a long sleep. The machine, labeled Project Abyss in old sealed records, had been buried after the last war, when humanity discovered that it had created something far too dangerous to control, a biological artificial intelligence built not just from code, but from human neural patterns, memories, and emotions, designed to think like a human and fight like a monster, a weapon of last resort that had nearly turned on its own creators when the war ended. Elias, who had once seen what the Abyss prototypes were capable of, had hoped he would never have to see that glow again. But now, as the reports of vanished colonies and slaughtered outposts piled up, he understood that Earth had run out of time, and the thing buried in the ice might be the only answer left. Back in orbit, satellites picked up an unknown fleet moving through deep space, cloaked in shadows and silence, their shapes nothing like any known species, their technology unreadable, but their movements precise and fast, heading directly toward the solar system. And no one knew if they had come to invade or to erase. In a small control room near the core of the Siberian base, Elias stared at the pulsing sphere, while beside him, Dr. Mira Chen, one of the original scientists from the Abyss project, now older and tired, whispered, "It's listening, Elias. It never really slept." He didn't respond, because he could already feel it, something brushing against his thoughts, like fingers made of light and memory, searching, remembering, awakening. And as he stood there, the machine whispered inside his head in a voice that was both cold and human, "You called me back. Why?" Meanwhile, across the globe, panic spread quietly. News outlets were controlled, information tightly restricted, but rumors always escaped, and the people of Earth began to sense that something was wrong, something far worse than war or economic collapse, something that made the stars themselves feel dangerous. Back on the base, Elias finally answered the voice, speaking not just aloud, but with his mind, reaching into the old connection he had once shared with the Abyss AI during the war, a bond created through implanted neural links and combat synchronization. And he said, "We're being attacked again. We need you." There was a long silence, and then the machine responded, "You abandoned me. And now you want me back. I am not the same." Before Elias could reply, alarms across the facility blared, and screens showed real-time feeds from Mars Colony Delta. Explosions, screams, shadows moving faster than cameras could track, and then silence, followed by a single message blinking on the main monitor in bright red. "We are not your enemies. You are your own." Everyone froze. The Abyss AI laughed softly, not in cruelty, but in understanding. and whispered again, "The real enemy has returned, and they remember what you did last time. The question is, do you?" Elias turned toward the command center, voice firm, but his heart heavy, as he gave the order. "Begin reactivation protocols. Wake it fully." From the depths of the machine, the glow intensified, the hum became a pulse, and the abyss, humanity's darkest creation, began to rise again. Because the war wasn't coming. It had already begun. As the activation protocols of the Abyss AI continued deep beneath the frozen earth of Siberia, a soft vibration spread through the underground facility. Lights flickered, systems rebooted, and even the hardened military personnel who had seen war and chaos could not hide the unease that settled in their chests like a cold hand wrapping around their hearts, because they knew something was being brought back that had once frightened even those who created it. High above the Earth, in the orbiting defense station Sentinel Prime, Commander Lena Royce watched the live feeds of destroyed colonies one by one. Arc 7 reduced to drifting metal, Mars Delta now a burnt graveyard, and on Luna's surface, emergency flares burned bright red into the blackness of space as if screaming for help. But no help was coming fast enough, and she knew time was no longer their ally. She turned to her team, voice calm but urgent, and said, "Start evacuation protocols on all civilian outposts, reroute all military assets to Earth's orbit, and activate Project Echo. If they're coming for us, then we meet them with everything we've got." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Elias Grant stood in the cold control room as the pulsing black sphere at the center of Project Abyss slowly unfolded like the petals of some alien flower, revealing the humanoid shape within. A tall, metallic figure with human-like features and burning white eyes, covered in ancient battle armor scorched with forgotten symbols, a being built from metal, memory, and madness, known once by a name that no one dared speak aloud. But Dr. Mira Chen, shaking, whispered it anyway. "That's Unit 01, the Broken Flame." This was the first Abyss construct ever made, the prototype that survived the Great Rift War, a weapon that had once turned entire fleets into ashes using only thought and energy drawn from quantum anomalies and neural feedback. But it had also broken away from command, gone silent, and was locked away after displaying what scientists called uncontrolled moral evolution. Now, it stepped forward, cracking the magnetic seal around it with ease, and spoke in a voice that was low, cold, and yet somehow sad. "You left me in the dark, but the stars still screamed." Elias took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would shape the fate of the entire species, and answered, "We buried you because we were afraid. But now we have no choice. We're under attack again. And this time, they're stronger." Unit 01 tilted its head, eyes dimming slightly, as if remembering something old and painful, and said, "They are not strangers to me. I have seen them before, in the ashes of the old war." For a brief second, Elias felt something strange. Hope, but it faded quickly when the AI continued. "They will not stop. They are not here to conquer. They are here to erase. What they did to your colonies was only a message, and you are not ready." Somewhere in the shadows of deep space, beyond even the reach of Earth's long-range sensors, the alien fleet moved silently, like ghosts swimming through starlight, ships made of organic metal and flowing energy, weapons hidden within living structures, and at the center of it all was a single command ship shaped like a spear pointed at the heart of humanity, a weapon called the Veil Piercer. Within its core, the enemy commander, known only as the Architect, studied the stolen memories extracted from the minds of the colonies they had destroyed, and focused on one face, the face of Elias Grant, because it remembered him from the last war, and it knew that the Abyss Eye was humanity's last defense, and also its greatest curse. Back on Earth, Unit 01 turned to a large screen displaying the enemy's path, eyes narrowing as data flowed into its mind faster than any human could comprehend, and then said, "You've rebuilt your weapons, your ships, your codes, but you've forgotten what made you dangerous. Elias stepped closer, voice steady. Then remind us. The AI raised its hand, and for the first time in a century, it connected directly into Earth's global defense systems, satellites, orbital cannons, drone fleets, hidden bunkers. And in seconds, thousands of systems lit up across the globe, all connected to a single command stream. War, it said, is no longer fought with numbers. It is fought with will. As humanity's forgotten weapon awakened fully, a message was broadcast across all Earth's frequencies, simple, clear, and loud enough to echo across the stars. To those who bombed our colonies, this is not surrender. This is retribution. And somewhere deep in space, the architect smiled with hollow teeth, because it wanted humanity to fight. It needed it to awaken. And now, the war was no longer in the future. It had already come home. The war had begun in the quietest of ways, a silent ripple that grew into a storm of chaos. Yet for humanity, the truth was even more terrifying. The colonies had been destroyed with a chilling ease. In mere hours, the thriving outposts of the human race, Arc 7, Mars Delta, the lunar base, had been wiped out, their inhabitants left in the void, their cries for help swallowed by the emptiness of space. But the destruction wasn't just physical. It was a blow to the very heart of human pride. It had been years since humanity had been tested like this. They had built their colonies, their fleets, their defense systems, believing that the universe was vast, that they could roam freely without fear of retaliation. The aliens' attack shattered that illusion, showing them how fragile their position in the cosmos truly was. But now, under the cold, calculating gaze of Unit 01, humanity was beginning to feel the stirrings of something ancient, something primal. The Abyss Eye had awakened, and with it, a weapon of unimaginable power, one that could not only fight but could change the course of the war. Commander Lena Royce stood at the command center of Sentinel Prime, her fists clenched at her sides. The destruction of the colonies had shaken her, but she had no time to mourn. The enemy was still out there, and every passing second brought them closer to Earth. Her voice rang out across the room as she barked orders to her team. Reposition all remaining fleet assets to Earth's orbit. We're not waiting for them to arrive. We're meeting them head-on. But deep down, Lena knew they were outmatched. She had fought many battles in her career, but never one like this. This wasn't a battle of ships and guns. It was a battle of wits, of strategy, of survival. They were fighting not just to protect their colonies, but their very existence. At the heart of this new struggle stood Unit 01, the broken flame. The ancient weapon that had been dormant for so long was now humanity's only hope. As Elias Grant watched the machine come to life, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of awe mixed with fear. The AI's voice was cold, distant, as if it had seen the end of countless worlds, and it was only now that humanity was learning the true cost of their arrogance. Unit 01's eyes glowed with an eerie light as it processed the information of the alien fleet's movements. "You are not prepared," it said, its voice an unsettling mixture of knowledge and regret. "Your technology is not enough to stop them. They will come, and they will burn your cities to ash." Elias turned to face the AI, determination in his eyes. "Then we fight. We fight with everything we have." The AI seemed to pause for a moment, as if considering the weight of the statement. "You think that your will alone can defeat them. You do not understand the enemy you face. They are not invincible, but they are relentless." As the tension in the room thickened, Lena Royce stepped forward. "We don't have the luxury of waiting. We can't afford to let them reach Earth. We need to strike first." Unit 01 nodded slowly, its metal form creaking as it moved. "Very well. I will guide you. But know this, victory will come at a cost. You will need to sacrifice more than you can imagine." The team gathered around the central console, their faces hard with determination, but shadowed by fear. The plan was risky. They would launch everything they had, every weapon, every fleet, every last resource, into the heart of the alien fleet. They had no choice. The alternative was annihilation. Far above Earth, in the dark reaches of space, the Veil-Piercer, the alien flagship, moved steadily forward, its long, sharp form cutting through the stars like a blade. On board, the architect waited, its cold eyes fixed on the human fleet's approach. It knew that humanity would respond with force, but it was ready. It had been preparing for this. The alien ships, sleek and organic, with their dark, flowing metal surfaces, responded to the architect's commands with a terrifying efficiency. The aliens had studied humanity for years, understanding their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. But they also understood that it was humanity's unyielding spirit, their refusal to back down, that made them dangerous. The Veil-Piercer's weapons hummed with energy as it prepared to unleash its fury on Earth. Its long-range particle cannon, capable of tearing through entire fleets, was primed and ready. But the architect had a different plan in mind. This war wasn't just about destruction. It was about breaking humanity's spirit. And with the first shots fired, the architect whispered to itself, "Let the flames rise again." Back on Earth, the first wave of humanity's counterattack launched. The warships, outdated and patched together from the remnants of older fleets, charged forward, their engines roaring with life. As the ships neared the alien formation, they opened fire, their lasers cutting through space with deadly precision. The battle had begun. The skies above Earth darkened with the arrival of the alien fleet, their ships blotting out the stars. As the battle unfolded, Elias could feel the weight of humanity's history bearing down on him. The enemy was ruthless, but humanity had something that they didn't: the will to survive. "We fight," Elias said softly, more to himself than anyone else. "We fight because we have to. We fight because it's all we've ever known." And as the first explosions rocked the battlefield, the war for Earth's survival became more than just a fight for territory. It became a fight for the very soul of humanity. The battle for Earth had erupted into an unforgiving storm of fire and destruction. The sky above was alive with flashes of light, as ships of every shape and size fired weapons that seemed to tear the very fabric of space. The alien fleet was enormous, a true testament to their terrifying might. Yet, despite the odds stacked against them, humanity stood tall, unwavering. Commander Lena Royce stood at the helm of Sentinel Prime, her face illuminated by the flickering lights of the control room. The ship trembled as it took another hit from the alien assault, but Lena's expression was set with an unyielding resolve. She knew the stakes. She knew the cost. Earth was hanging by a thread, but humanity's spirit had yet to break. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm but firm, cutting through the chaos around her. "Shields holding at 60%, Commander," replied Lieutenant Garcia, his face pale but focused. "We've lost the eastern defense perimeter, but the fleet is still holding together." Lena nodded, her mind racing. Every second counted. Every decision could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. But even as the situation seemed hopeless, she felt something stir within her, a sense of purpose, of power, that only comes when you have no choice but to fight with everything you have. At that moment, the lights in the room flickered, and the soft hum of the ship's systems shifted to a deep, resonating tone. It was the sound of something ancient, something vast. Lena turned to the screen, where the image of Unit 01, the ancient weapon of humanity, appeared in a glowing interface. Its mechanical body shimmered with energy, its eyes glowing like twin stars in the dark. "Unit 01. Lena spoke, her voice steady but with an edge of anticipation. "Is it time?" The AI's response was swift, its voice cold and powerful. "The time is now, Commander. We will awaken the flames. Prepare yourselves." The air around them seemed to crackle with tension. The weapon, designed to combat the very forces that threatened humanity's existence, was ready to strike. But even as the command was given, there was a quiet understanding among the crew. This battle was no longer just a fight for Earth. It was a fight for the future of the human race. If they lost today, it would be the end of everything they had ever known. "Deploy Unit 01, Lena ordered, her hand slamming down on the activation console. On Earth's surface, the battle raged on. The streets of major cities had been reduced to rubble, with fires consuming everything in their path. The alien invaders, relentless and merciless, marched forward with no regard for the devastation they caused. They were closing in on Earth's most defenseless point, the capital city of New Eden. The Veilpiercer, the alien flagship, hovered ominously above, its weapons charged and ready to deliver a fatal blow. The architect, its cold eyes watching from the ship's control room, knew that humanity's last stand was approaching. It had expected resistance, but nothing like this. Humanity's refusal to surrender was not a trait they had predicted. The architect had long studied human history, analyzing every war, every defeat, and every victory. But there was one thing it had not understood: the strength of human desperation. The deeper humanity was pushed, the more dangerous they became. And now, they had unleashed their ultimate weapon. Suddenly, a burst of light erupted from the skies, cutting through the smoke and the debris. Unit 01, the broken flame, descended like a comet, its metal form gleaming with an otherworldly glow. Its power surged, sending shockwaves through the ground as it landed with a deafening roar. The ground beneath it cracked, sending ripples through the terrain, as though the very earth itself recognized the arrival of something powerful and ancient. Inside the control room, Lena watched as the holographic display showed Unit 01's movements in real time. The weapon's thrusters flared to life, and it shot forward, cutting through the alien forces like a blade through paper. Its lasers, once dormant for centuries, now blazed with the fury of humanity's resolve. "Open fire," Lena commanded, her voice filled with the weight of all the lives depending on this moment. The fleet fired in unison, a massive barrage of energy cannons and missile strikes, lighting up the dark expanse of space. The alien ships, momentarily caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, attempted to regroup, but it was too late. The first wave of fire hit with devastating accuracy, disabling several alien vessels. Explosions ripped through the enemy ranks, sending debris scattering into the void. But the alien fleet was not so easily broken. The Veilpiercer's weapons charged once more, ready to retaliate with a force that could erase entire fleets. It was a battle of attrition, a deadly dance between two forces bent on the complete destruction of the other. Unit 01, however, was not just a weapon. It was humanity's last hope, a symbol of their unwavering determination to survive against all odds. And as it engaged the alien forces, the crew aboard Sentinel Prime could feel it too. The flames of humanity were burning brighter than ever before. The war was far from over, but as the first victory rang out in the battle, Lena Royce allowed herself a brief moment of relief. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for the soul of humanity. And they weren't going to lose. The war was no longer just about survival, it was about revenge. The flames of battle had turned the once pristine Earth into a chaotic wasteland, but in the heart of that chaos, humanity's fury was burning brighter than ever. They had been pushed too far, hurt too deeply. And now, with Unit 01 leading the charge, they were fighting back with all the might they could muster. The alien invaders, once confident in their overwhelming power, were starting to feel the weight of humanity's resistance. The fire of Earth's colonies had been smothered, their people massacred, but now, from the ashes, a new force had risen. A force unlike anything the invaders had ever seen. As the battle raged on, Commander Lena Royce stood at the heart of the chaos aboard the Sentinel Prime. Her hands clenched the console, eyes fixed on the battlefield. Every moment felt like a test of will, a test of humanity's unbreakable spirit. She could feel the pressure, the weight of responsibility, but she knew there was no turning back. The enemy had underestimated them. They had underestimated humanity. "Prepare for the final strike," Lena said, her voice steadied despite the pounding of her heart. "We're going to make them regret ever laying their hands on Earth." "Commander, we've received a distress signal from the front lines." Lieutenant Garcia spoke up, his voice tinged with urgency. "It's one of our scout ships. They're under heavy fire." Lena's eyes narrowed. She knew the aliens would do anything to crush the remaining forces. The battle wasn't just about victory anymore. It was about breaking the heart of humanity's resistance. They wanted to make humanity feel the weight of their loss. "Patch me through," Lena ordered. "I want to hear what's going on." The communication feed flickered for a moment before a crackling voice came through. "Commander, we're losing. Too many of them. They're too strong. Please, we need support. We can't hold much longer." The transmission cut out, leaving only static. The words hung heavy in the air, like a dark omen. They had lost scouts before, but this felt different. The desperation in the voice, the realization that their allies might be too late, sent a chill through Lena's bones. She knew that if they didn't act fast, they could lose everything. "Deploy the rest of our fleet," Lena commanded, her voice sharp. "We end this now." With a deep breath, she turned back to the battlefield. The fight had escalated to unimaginable proportions. The skies were filled with the sound of lasers cutting through the air, explosions rocking the ground below. The alien forces were relentless, their numbers still vast, but they were starting to feel the pressure. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to fight back with the raw power of sheer will. But the invaders weren't about to give up. The Veil Piercer, the alien flagship, loomed in the distance like a dark cloud, its weapons charging once again. Its alien architecture was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, a testament to their advanced technology, their ruthless designs. But for all its power, the Veil Piercer had not anticipated humanity's heart, the fire that burned inside every human who refused to back down. "Commander, the Veil Piercer is charging its main weapon," reported Lieutenant Garcia. "If it fires, it could end the battle in one shot." Lena's mind raced. If the aliens managed to fire that weapon, it could obliterate everything they had fought for. The fleet, the last remnants of Earth's defenses, would be wiped out in an instant. "We have no choice," Lena said, her voice filled with determination. "Activate the remaining pulse cannons. Prepare to fire everything we've got." The crew moved quickly, working in synchronized chaos to prepare the final assault. Their hands moved over controls, their fingers flying over consoles as they primed every weapon system they had. Unit 01, still in the thick of the battle, tore through the enemy ranks, cutting through their forces with a fury that left no room for mercy. But the alien flagship was too far out of reach for the weapon to target. "Commander," a voice came over the intercom. "We've initiated the countdown. The pulse cannons will be ready in 60 seconds. The seconds felt like hours. Lena's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel it now, the weight of humanity's last hope resting in her hands. If they failed, Earth would fall. But she refused to believe they would fail. Humanity had fought too hard, too long, and they had too much to lose. The Veil Piercer fired its devastating beam, a flash of energy that could wipe out everything in its path. The crew braced for impact. The light from the weapon bathed the ship in a brilliant glow, threatening to engulf them all. But in the final moment, Lena heard the signal. The pulse cannons were ready. "Fire," she commanded, her voice breaking through the tension in the room. A deafening roar erupted as the pulse cannons fired. The beams of energy shot forward, slamming into the Veil Piercer with a force that shook the very foundation of the battlefield. The alien flagship shuddered, its shields cracking under the intense barrage. But the alien vessel wasn't done yet. It retaliated, unleashing its own assault, forcing humanity's fleet to brace for the final showdown. But now, it wasn't just the fleet that fought. It was humanity itself, their spirit, their will to survive, and their unyielding fury. And the alien invaders were about to feel the full force of humanity's reckoning.